Continuing chapter 30 of Tanya. We'll try to connect it a little bit to the difficult times that we are in. I think it's one of the ideas I'm trying to live with right now. I think it's very, very important for Jews around the world is that we're not on the sidelines. When someone feels that they are on the sidelines, let me just record this. When someone is on the sidelines, then you feel out of it. You feel like you want to check the news every second. You feel paralyzed. You feel down. Feel disconnected. And someone is bringing to my attention that in Israel itself, people are not doing these things. People are busy. They are busy. They are busy surviving. They're busy defending. They're busy checking in on others. Teens are busy stocking the shelves of grocery stores. Yeshiva boys are busy studying Torah. Some are tying tzitzit for those that want tzitzit because there's a shortage of tzitzit. They're busy cooking. They're busy calling. They're busy doing everything. And when you are busy doing good, it keeps you motivated. It keeps you empowered. So the same way in Israel itself, people are busy. We should be busy doing good. A lot of people, I think it's in our culture today, when something goes on, we want to feel bad. I feel bad for you. We don't want to feel bad. We want to do good. No need to feel bad. Let's keep busy doing good. And certainly when we think about those people that are physically with their lives defending Am Yisrael, we should, and we'll connect it to this idea today in Tanya, feel like we have to make sacrifices in our own lives with a soldier-like intensity when it comes to doing good. So with that pair of glasses, I want to approach today's Tanya, chapter 30, which continues a harsher section of Tanya. And what I mean by that is at this point in the book, the author is trying to address an issue called Timtum Halev. We mentioned this last time. Timtum Halev is a certain apathy, a certain, hey, I'm all right, a smugness, I'm where I need to be kind of mentality that all of us, every single one can fall prey to every now and then. And that is the antithesis of holiness. In holiness, you're always working to become better. You're always striving. You're always in the midst of some struggle. People don't realize, but the hero of Tanya is the Beinani, and he is a struggler. And whether you're a Beinani or an aspiring Beinani or a Russia, doesn't matter. We should be struggling to become better, always. We shouldn't be complacent. So complacency is a worry in Tanya. For anyone, no matter what rung of the ladder somebody is in their spiritual journey, if they stop and get too comfortable on that rung, then there is a problem. And it's a pretty intense problem. The problem is so intense that the author of the Tanya uses words that are more Musar-like. Musar means more rebuke, harsher, to break that up. And we'll have this in chapter 30, and then next week again in 31, please God. What is the approach to dealing with a certain smugness, apathy, complacency? What should we tell ourselves? And I mentioned last time that whenever we beat ourselves up, we have to be careful that it does not achieve the opposite effect. The desired outcome is I get back into the game and I feel motivated. If God forbid it leads to the lack of that, it leads to even more paralysis. That's obviously not coming from a good place, right? So we always have to take these chapters with a grain of salt and make sure that what comes out of it is something positive and not negative. But that is what the author is addressing at this point. All right. Any questions? So he begins by saying one of the reasons, one of the ways people can come to this complacency or a certain smugness, a certain sense of, I'm doing all right. I'm doing all right. In my journey, my spiritual journey, my mitzvot, is when people look around, and it's very easy to find that man, that woman, that seemingly is doing less than you. especially hang out with such people. So it's so easy to look around and say, you know what? I'm actually doing pretty darn good myself. I mean, look at this person. Look what they're involved in. Look at the schmutz. Look at the darkness that they're wrestling with. And if we all look long enough, we can find somebody who is the fictional character of chapter 30. Chapter 30 has a fictional character. And we'll look at the words right now to see who that fictional character is. But the purpose of this fictional character, the way it is over here, is it's that person that you point out and you say, I am on a higher rung than them. So it gives you a false, and we'll explain why it is false, as well as a dangerous sense of I'm doing okay. Let's see those words in the Tanya. This is also something a person has to resolve in their heart, to fulfill the instructions of our sages who say, be humble before all people, all. And humble means I really could look at anyone and say, you know what? They have something to teach me. I am humble in front of them. And the meaning doesn't just mean that I don't brag in front of them. I'm not holier than thou. Meaning there's some people in the times of Tanya that attempted to strive for humility, that I don't appear holier than thou in front of anyone. I don't come across as being elitist in front of someone. I don't come across as being judgmental. But that isn't what our sages told us. They don't say, look humble in front of everybody. What do they say? Be humble in front of everyone. Genuinely, authentically, you should actually be able to look at people and say, you know what? In front of them, I got a lot to learn. I got ways to go. But how can you do that if this individual seems to be struggling with darkness that, gosh, I'm doing pretty good compared to what they're dealing with. I'm on a higher rung of the ladder, and people often do this when it comes to religiosity, and we want to feel good about ourselves. We look at others who are on a lower rung. That is human nature, by the way. It's on human nature. So again, the author here says, this is the way to do it in front of anyone, even in front of, they say worthless of worthless. That's a little intense. The Hebrew is kal shebekalim. It means even people that seem to be not heavyweight spiritual people, the opposite of heavyweight, the lightest of light, not translates it as worthless. And he says, because we also know our sages say, do not judge anyone until you are in their place. And their place is something that you cannot recognize. And he goes on and he explains something I find very fascinating. And he says, and I keep on going back and forth between the text and my words here. But when you see somebody that seems to be falling prey to ugly temptations, desires, and seems completely irreligious, that's the key here. You don't know the full situation. You tell me, what do you not know? What do you think the Alter Rebbe is going to say? What do you not know? Someone help me out. What do you think you do not know?
You do not know the other person's place.
In what way? So place in terms of you don't know.
They are. You haven't walked in his shoes.
You haven't walked in their shoes, both internally and externally. Externally means what influences, what upbringing. I'm saying external in terms of even upbringing. You don't know the nurture. You don't know what kind of parents they had. You don't know what kind of education they had. You don't know what obstacles, what tests they have been given. You do not know the environment in which they are forced to wrestle in. That's A. B is you don't know their internal struggles, because Hashem gives each of us a different type of evil inclination, different temptations, different desires. And when, just because I was not blessed or cursed, however you want to look at it, with a particular desire that for me, that's not a struggle, I have no idea what life would look like if I was given that struggle. You know what? Maybe not only would I not be like that, I would be worse than them. I would be worse than them. That's, by the way, how it says Moshe Rabbeinu was one of them. It was the most humble person. It doesn't mean he did not know who he was. That's not what humility is. Humility is not a full sense of identity. Oh, I'm a nobody. No, 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 no. Moses knew he was the one who communicated Torah to the Jewish people and God's servant and one of the greatest prophet. He knew that. But he also felt that he was given spiritual gifts, opportunities, parents, blessings, so on and so forth. And if someone else would have been given those very same things, they could have achieved even more than him. You see, it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful definition of humility, because it does not require us to be in denial of who we are. It just means that we don't attribute it to our own strength, abilities. We say we were gifted with a lot of this, and we could have very well been someone else. We could have been given another identity, another character. So it says this person, and he gives this fictional character. And I think the way I see when I look at these words of Tanya is you yourself, the one the Alter Rebbe is talking to, has the luxury of having an office job, okay? Or maybe he's even a teacher in a yeshiva, or maybe he's around religious people all day. And you don't know this other guy has to hang out in not great environment, and he sits on the street corners, and his eyes see all temptations, and the heart desires, and the evil nature is kindled like a baker's red hot oven. But you have the luxury of not having to do that. And maybe you have the luxury of having a Yetzer Hara that is not as passionate by nature. It isn't the same in everyone else. Now, he says, so you have no idea what they're going through. Now, he says a disclaimer over here. This is very important. Very, very important. This argument that the Alter Rebbe is giving us, hey, don't look at someone else and say, I'm doing better than them, because you could have very well been doing worse than them. The Alter Rebbe says, don't compare the outcome, but rather compare the struggle. And you don't know their struggle. What are you struggling with? So the disclaimer he says here is, it's almost humorous. By the way, this is what we're telling you. This would not be what we would be telling that dude on the street corners. What would we would tell that other guy, by the way, please refer to chapter 12 of Tanya, which tells us that mind over heart, impulse control is in the ability of every person. Just because you have a temptation need not mean that you fall prey to that temptation. You with me, everyone? So if we were actually talking to that guy, we would not give him the pass for his behavior because of his environment and nurture, nature. But we're not talking to that guy. Who are we talking to right now? You. When we talk to you, we say, hey, don't look at anyone and feel holier than thou. Don't look at anyone and feel complacent and smug, because you do not know what someone else is going through. You do not. When's the last time you've struggled as much as they have had to in your realm? It's almost like parents. I don't know if anyone can relate to this with more than one kid. Were that what you're telling kid A? You don't want kid B to hear. So like, kid A, this is for you. I don't want kid B to hear this right now. They're going to take this the wrong way. So what we're telling this aspiring Beinoni, and this is someone who's already done all the hard work of Tanya. This is someone motivated in their spiritual journey. We're telling them, don't be complacent. And when you look at someone else, you have no idea what they're going through. And it is their environment that's causing them to have to struggle so much. It's their Yetzer Hara that causes them to struggle so much. And he says, do you recognize how hard it is for them and how much they have to struggle, even to get to where they are now? That level that you think is low, subpar, non-religious, secular, whatever you want to call it. Do you realize how much they've had to struggle to get there? If only you would struggle in the same way in your realm. When's the last time you pulled a schwitz? When's the last time you sweated? And he goes on And he's talking to the religious person over here. And this is the religious person who is doing the typical mitzvot. And he uses typical examples. When's the last time when you did a typical grace after meals? That's the actual example he did. And you don't just do it by rote. You actually struggle over the words and mean it from your heart. When's the last time you've stressed over that? When's the last time you've stressed over writing a check to tzedakah and you didn't just do it because, I'm on cruise control and this is what I can give and still be comfortable, but you've given something that's made you uncomfortable? When's the last time you've said, and he gives multiple examples in the day-to-day life of a religious Jew who is, so to speak, coasting. And he says, if you're coasting and you're not becoming any bit uncomfortable in what you are doing, then for all you know, you're on a lower level right now than that person who is struggling, even though the results may not necessarily show it. We'll do a few lines inside. So to grace after meal and brachos. Do you say it just robotically, or do you have kavanah and you throw yourself into it? Are you studying Torah more than your innate nature? Whether in the realm of doing good or not doing good, meaning abstaining from bad. You're in the middle of gossiping and you control yourself and you stop yourself from saying this tale. You have a desire to say something that is less than 100% honest, and you stop yourself, even though it would be more convenient to just slip and say that. And he gives countless other examples in the chapter. But let's go back to the point over here. We should never feel smug when we look at other people, because we don't know what that they're going through, and B, is they might very well have a lot to teach us in our own world of spiritual journey. And if we're not struggling, we're doing something wrong. Someone once said, when you learn Chabad Chassidus, it brings comfort to those that are uncomfortable, and it makes those too comfortable a little bit of uncomfortable. You hear that? Chabad Shluchim, if we're doing our job right, we're comforting those that need comfort, and those that are already comfortable, we're making them just a little bit more uncomfortable, because we should never have this smugness, because this smugness is gets in the way of true service of Hashem. So l'chaim, everyone, I want to connect this to what we're going through right now. We should all take heed to these words of Tanya, and we should sacrifice. The same way there are people who are sacrificing, literally defending Am Yisrael, defending our way of life, putting their bodies on the line, tremendous sacrifices in every area of our life. We should view ourselves as spiritual soldiers in this battle when it comes to doing mitzvot. We have to do it with joy, so let's not take this too much, internalize this too much to the point that we are living with an intensity that is not joyous. But we should feel our actions do matter and they do make a difference. We should be disciplined throughout the day, just as a soldier is, and we should push ourselves just a little bit beyond our comfort zone in the realm of mitzvot right now. That is chapter 30 of Tanya. Any questions?
Rabbi, this is Herschel.
Yes.
Is the struggle more important than the result?
That seems to be the exact theme of chapter 30. That seems to be the theme of chapter 30. And it's almost as if it is God that gives us our IQ, our genetics, our makeup, even spiritual makeup. So there's only so much you can take credit for some of the results, because a lot of those are God-given gifts. What is not God-given is what we make of those gifts in terms of the struggle. Even results sometimes is a blessing from Hashem. Two people can put in the same effort in a mitzvah, or in an obstacle, and one is successful and one is not. So results often may even be out of our hands. So at least as far as this chapter goes, yes, the fact that you're struggling is more important. From Hashem's, it's interesting that teachers, you often hear teachers say, it's not the grade that counts, it's the effort, right? And they'll say that, but at the end of the day, we know in school, it doesn't really work that way. Yeah, there might be on the report card an effort category, but most people are looking at the grades. They're not looking at the effort. I'm not God. I can't play God. But I would imagine that when a soul comes up after 120 years, the report card is a little bit different because the grades a teacher doesn't have the ability to give everybody a different test based upon abilities, right? They don't have the time to do that. Hashem does. So Hashem may not be impressed so much by certain things when he says, I was the one that gave you that ability. I was the one that gave you that IQ. I was the one that gave you the temperament that allowed you to do this. What I want to see is how much you've struggled and worked with what I have given you. So there is certainly a time and place, Herschel, that yes, the struggle is more than the results. That said, I'm reminded, and I have to run in a minute here, I have another Zoom in a moment, of a story. I believe it was the 5th Chabad Rebbe, and I'll finish with this about results, where there was a big decree against the Jews. This was in the Tsarist times, and there was a whole gathering of Jewish people where they tried through prayer, through political connections, through all sorts of negotiations to change that decree. And they literally didn't sleep for days and days and days, and they were unsuccessful. And at the end, the 5th Chabad Rebbe, I think he fainted, and he was so upset by not being successful. And someone went up to him and says, Lubavitcher Rebbe, what are you upset about? We did everything we could. To which he said, yeah, but at the end of the day, it wasn't successful. So there is still something to be said about the fact that we want the change to be on the ground. We want to be able to see with our own eyes. And we don't want to just have that mindset of, well, I did my part. And then, so there is a time and place to have that mentality as well, where we feel I need to see results on the ground. I want to see a change on the ground. I want to see the impact that I made. I want this world to actually be better. There is a time and place to say that. But more times than not, the approach in Tanya is going to be, it's about the effort. It's about the struggle. It's about the work that we put in. L'chaim, everyone. Let's keep busy. Keep busy doing good things this week.
Thank you.